The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How You Can Help Eradicate Polio. My name is Patina Dixon-Jenkins. I'm Lead Media Relations Specialist for Polio Plus, and I will be moderating today's session. During today's session, Carol Pandak, Director of Polio Plus, will give you an overview of the status of polio eradication and let you know how you can help in the effort to end polio now. During today's webinar, we will discuss the challenges ahead and how you as Rotarians can help to finish the job, eliminating the final 1% of polio remaining in the world. So please stay tuned for this important information. How can you participate in the webinar today? You each have your own control panel in the upper right corner of your screen that looks similar to the one here. Use the orange arrow to open or close your control panel. Next, you'll select the audio option for listening to today's webinar. Select the option you prefer in your own control panel in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you would like to connect via the telephone, the dial-in and access numbers will be provided to you in your own control panel once you select the telephone option. Or you may choose to participate via microphone and speakers from your system. If you are using your computer speakers and are having problems hearing, you may wish to try USB headphones, or you may wish to try switching to the telephone option. In order to maintain the highest sound quality possible, everyone except Carol and I will be muted during the webinar. We encourage you to submit questions or comments to our panelists and to RI staff members by using the question pod on your attendee control panel in the upper right corner of your computer screen. You can also use the question pod if you're having technical difficulties. Simply describe the problems you are having in the questions box in your control panel, and an RI staff member will assist you right away. Now let's take a moment to practice using the question pod. Please type your name and where you're joining us from. Thank you. We have Jaylan from Egypt, Joe from Lake Tahoe, Joan from Canada, Pam from San Diego, Nina from Virginia, Debbie from Wilmette, Illinois, Sue from Texas, Lydia from Costa Rica, and others. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I am now pleased to introduce Carol Pandak, Director of Polio Plus. Carol?
Thank you, Patina, and welcome to all who are joining us for today's webinar. As Patina mentioned, I'm going to start today by talking about our progress in the fight to end polio. As you may already know, Rotary started its fight against polio nearly 35 years ago with a project to immunize children in the Philippines in 1979. On the heels of that success, Rotary carefully planned and launched the Polio Plus program in 1985. In 1988, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative was formed. At that time, nearly 1,000 children a day were stricken with polio. Since then, cases have been reduced by more than 99%, down to only 223 cases reported worldwide in 2012, the fewest annual cases ever reported. In 1988, all three types of poliovirus paralyzed children in over 125 countries, and just 71 countries were polio-free. Since then, we've stopped transmission of the type 2 wild poliovirus, which paralyzed its last victim in India in 1999. And for the first time in history, there has not been a type 3 poliovirus anywhere in the world for nearly a year. Today, only 3 countries have never stopped the transmission of the wild poliovirus. Those are Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And as of September of this year, the number of polio cases in these 3 endemic countries is down 40% compared to the same time in 2012. This is very real progress in polio eradication. But, as the Independent Monitoring Board for Polio Eradication said in its June report, the polio virus has been knocked down, but it is certainly not knocked out. For example, the circled areas of northern Nigeria and Pakistan continue to have polio transmission, as children are missed during vaccination campaigns, sometimes because of insecurity and inaccessibility. And another challenge is outbreaks. A current outbreak in the Horn of Africa has resulted in more than 150 polio cases this year. Outbreaks such as these will continue to threaten children everywhere until polio is stopped in the remaining 3 endemic countries. The world's ministers of health gathered in Geneva to launch a bold new polio eradication and endgame strategic plan that was developed by the GPEI partners, the partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. The funding requirement to fully implement the plan is significant, US $5.5 billion. However, of this amount, $4 billion was pledged at the Global Vaccine Summit in April. This plan reaffirms the world's confidence in the vision of a polio-free world. It called for the vaccination of more than 250 million children worldwide, multiple times every year, interrupting poliovirus transmission and protecting polio-free countries, especially in Africa, by continuing mass immunization campaigns. The plan also includes the cost of conducting active surveillance for polio in 70 countries and preparing for polio-free certification in nearly 200 countries. The plan also looks beyond polio to its legacy, adapting the program's infrastructure to deliver other health services to the world's most vulnerable children, what we in Rotary call the plus in Polio Plus. To be clear, the challenges we face are daunting. Challenges like the attacks on health workers in Nigeria and Pakistan and outbreaks in previously polio-free countries in the Horn of Africa. But as we have faced challenges before, the program has adapted and changed and continues to make progress. Part of the new endgame strategic plan going forward is to incorporate the use of inactivated polio vaccine, or IPV, which will be introduced into the routine immunization programs globally to help boost the immunity of children against polio. And new alliances, like the GPEI's work with the Global Islamic Advisory Council, will work to ensure that all parents understand their obligation to vaccinate their children and that all communities condemn any attacks on health workers. Next, we will look at what you can do to help end polio now. The new polio eradication endgame plan needs the backing of every single Rotarian. We are very close to making history by defeating this disease, but we must maintain our focus and drive. So what can you do to support this mission? There are four words: advocate, donate, and raise awareness. So to advocate for polio eradication, the funding needed to eradicate polio will largely come from the governments of the world. As I mentioned earlier, $4 billion of the $5.5 billion needed to end polio by 2018 was pledged at the Global Vaccine Summit in April of 2013. Those funds have been committed but are not yet in the bank, and we need Rotarians to reach out to their government leaders to ensure that the commitments made are fully realized in a short period of time. We need Rotarians to make this issue visible by visiting endpolionow.org/resources for materials on how you can advocate for polio eradication. Fundraise. One of the forces that will get us across the finish line is Rotary's focused financial support, which will be magnified with an agreement with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. From 2013 to 2018, every $1 that Rotary commits in direct support for polio immunization, up to $35 million per year, will be matched by an additional $2 from the Gates Foundation, making contributions work 3 times as hard. For example, a contribution of $25 will be matched with $50 from the Gates Foundation, leading to a contribution of $75 towards polio eradication. So you can make your own Polio Plus contribution online. In addition to setting a club goal of at least $1,500 a year, you can host a fundraiser that will help to raise support and awareness. Fundraisers are a great way to involve non-Rotarians and a great opportunity to tell family, friends, and business colleagues about the 2-for-1 match. Again, what we want you to do is to advocate, donate, and raise awareness. We will talk more about raising awareness in just a minute, but I will turn back to Bettina for our interactive poll.
Thank you, Carol. We will now go into a poll to answer the question, since last World Polio Day, what have you done to help in the fight to end polio? Please select all that apply from the poll on your screen. Your choices are, I've made a personal contribution, our club has contributed at least $1,500 to Polio Plus, I've hosted or attended a fundraiser for polio, I've sent a letter to my government official, or I've helped to educate, motivate, or advocate in another way. About 45% of you have voted. So far, it looks like most people have helped to educate, motivate, or advocate in another way. It looks like most people have also made a personal contribution to Polio Plus in support of the effort. And clubs have contributed at least $1,500 to Polio Plus. The poll will be closing shortly. And your results are there on the screen. It looks like most people have helped to educate, motivate, or advocate in another way, or have made a personal contribution directly to Polio Plus in support of the campaign. Thank you for participating. I'll now turn back over to Carol.
Thank you, Bettina, and thanks for participating in the poll. Now, let's move on to how you can raise awareness on World Polio Day. First, I want to tell you about an important event taking place on October 24th. Rotary and Northwestern University Center for Global Health will host an event in downtown Chicago with leaders in the initiative giving a global update on the fight to end polio. Speakers include Bruce Aylward, Assistant Director General of the World Health Organization for Polio Eradication, Nigerian-born Paralympian athlete and Shot Life Ambassador Dennis Ogby, and others. We encourage you to take advantage of this live stream event and host a viewing party, invite government officials and others, spread the word about the event, invite your friends to learn more about Rotary's flagship project, share information about the live streamed event through your social media, use the graphics that are available at endpolionow.org. What are some of the other things that you can do to raise awareness on World Polio Day? For example, you could hold a community fundraiser to support Polio Plus. Take the opportunity to tell everyone how much further their donation goes when the Gates Foundation match is taken into account. If you haven't already, upload your own photo into the This Close campaign using the This Close gesture. Set up a booth at an event to encourage participation. It's a good way to break the ice and talk to people about the fight to end polio. Ask everyone in your club to wear an End Polio Now pin for World Polio Day, and use the occasion to spread the word on social media. Get graphics from the endpolionow.org/resources website to talk about the issue with others online. Here are a few more examples of how clubs and districts have worked to raise awareness for the fight to end polio. The Purple Pinky Project. This is excellent for doing in schools or with interactors. When a child receives the oral polio vaccine, their pinky finger is marked purple to indicate they've received the vaccination. Rotarians have held fundraisers offering a purple pinky to all who make a contribution. The Rotary Crocuses. This is a popular project in the UK where they've made the purple crocus a symbol for the campaign and give them in exchange for a contribution to Polio Plus. And of course, the End Polio Now illuminations. We've heard that illuminations are taking place all over India and in Nigeria for World Polio Day this year.
Thank you, Carol. We will now move into another opportunity to interact with us. Please type your answers into the question box on your screen. What do you plan to do to celebrate World Polio Day this year? Again, please type your answers into the question box on your screen. We have someone who will be watching the live web stream event at endpolionow.org in honor of World Polio Day this year. We have someone who will host a viewing party, someone who will share End Polio Now programs via social media, John is interested in ordering the purple crocuses. We'll make that information available to you after the webinar. Sherry plans to wear the End Polio Now pins. Pamela will wear the NID shirt everywhere. I see someone who will be going to Ethiopia. Sao Paulo Polio Symposium, November 12th. Keenan will be visiting the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia. CDC will be hosting a viewing party for Rotary's live stream event as well. Invite a polio survivor to speak. Gather people to watch at a fundraising party. And watch the seminar with a school. There will be a polio illumination at a university in California. It looks like a lot of people will be having club programs in honor of World Polio Day that week and plan to spread the word locally and throughout their clubs. Thank you for all who have participated. I will now turn back over to Carol to talk about some of the resources we have available for you.
Thank you, Patina. It looks like there's a lot of great activity taking place for World Polio Day. The endpolionow.org/resources site will provide you with the tools you need to promote your club's polio activities. You will find infographics, sample media materials, sample letters to government officials, fundraising support materials, and more. I would encourage you to visit this site regularly for updates. On polioeradication.org, you can receive the most recent program news, such as the current polio case count and the global status of polio eradication.
We will now accept additional questions from the audience. Again, please type your questions into the comment pane. Those questions we do not get to during the live webinar today, we will email with answers after the program. Questions are still coming in. Some people would like to know where to purchase or receive the Rotary crocuses, the purple crocuses that they use in the campaigns. I will be pulling up the web address for that, and we'll send that. Carol, we have a question about NIDs coming up in India. Can you share about how those NID dates are announced and when people might expect to hear about those?
Thank you, Patina. The National Immunization Day dates in India are decided by the government of India. They are made available on the polioeradication.org website. People are welcome to email what's our email? polioplus@rotary.org, polioplus@rotary.org, and you can ask about the NID dates, and we would be happy to provide those to you.
Okay, we have a question that's come in about the Horn of Africa outbreak. They would like to know where the outbreak came from.
Thank you. Yes, the Horn of Africa outbreak is actually occurring in three countries at the moment: Somalia, Kenya, and Ethiopia. That is a polio case from West Africa, and so that reinforces the point that until we stop the transmission of polio in the remaining 3 endemic countries of Nigeria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, we will continue to have outbreaks in previously polio-free countries.
And Carol, further to that, someone else asks, why is the case count higher in 2013 than in 2012?
That's a very good question. I guess the point I'd make there is that in the remaining endemic countries of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria, the case count is 40% lower than at the same time last year. But the Horn of Africa outbreak, there's more than 150 cases in those 3 countries, and so that is driving the number of polio cases up this year.
Thanks, Carol. And several people have asked where they can purchase the End Polio Now pins.
Thank you, Patina. The End Polio Now pins can be purchased at shop.rotary.org, and the item number is 988. That's shop.rotary.org, item number 988.
Thanks, Carol. And someone else has asked where they can receive more information about the viewing party on October 24th. And I'll hand that over to you to answer.
More information on the live stream event, it will be available on endpolionow.org. That's the endpolionow.org website.
Okay. Several people have asked where they can get a copy of the presentation, and it will actually be available after the presentation is over. You will receive a message with the recording so that you can share it with your club. I think we had about 3 questions for that. And someone else asks about what they can do in order to get materials for their club event.
Thank you. The endpolionow.org website is a great site for resources. So it's endpolionow /resources, and there's a whole list of different publications that you can download that you can make copies of to distribute to Rotary clubs. So it's that is a great source of information for any of the events that you have.
A question has just come in from Joe asking about how polio is monitored and who keeps track of the cases and the outbreaks.
Thank you. That's a great question. Polio is monitored through a very sophisticated surveillance network of 145 laboratories globally, by which samples of polio samples go to the laboratory and are tested to determine whether or not it's the polio virus. This is the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is one of the leaders in this area because they can provide the very, very sophisticated typing of the samples to determine what type of polio it might be. But the 145 laboratories globally that is overseen by the World Health Organization and the CDC helps monitor the outbreaks of polio and cases of polio, and from that information we derive the case counts.
Thanks, Carol. We had a question come in from John asking what is being done to stop the outbreak in the Horn of Africa?
Thank you. There's been a lot of activity in the Horn of Africa. In fact, since May of this year, there have been over, I think, 15 or 16 immunization activities in those 3 countries. Rotary provided a $500,000 emergency response or rapid response grant to the World Health Organization for activities in Somalia, but also the government of the UK provided a 10 million pound contribution also to address the outbreak in Somalia, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So polio immunization campaigns are moving forward in all of those countries.
Thanks, Carol. Someone else has asked about our fundraising goals. What's Rotary's fundraising goal? Is the $35 million a year Rotary's goal?
Great, thank you. Yes, our goal is our commitment, we need to commit $35 million per year in order to receive the full 2-to-1 match from the Gates Foundation. So in order to spend $35 million a year, we need to raise $35 million a year. The trustees and the board are asking clubs to contribute $1,500 per year for the next 5 years, and we're also asking districts to provide 20% of their district-designated funds to Polio Plus, again, each year for the next 5 years.
Thanks, Carol. We received another question that asks to explain what happens in an outbreak. Does that mean that children are getting sick, adults are getting polio? What happens? What does that actually mean? What does an outbreak mean?
So an outbreak of polio results in usually young children, being paralyzed by the polio virus. And so children, they contract the virus, they come down usually with flu-like symptoms, and then they exhibit some sort of paralysis of one of their limbs, which is indicative of polio. So yes, children and sometimes older children and adults can get the polio virus, but yes, they're becoming ill and becoming paralyzed by polio.
Thanks, Carol. One more question about the logistics of immunization in Pakistan and Nigeria. What is Rotary and what are the partners doing to help reach children in some of the more difficult areas of inaccessibility?
This is a good question because this is certainly the challenge that we face today, because polio exists in the most difficult to reach areas in the remaining endemic countries. So for example, in both Pakistan and Nigeria, Rotarians and the partnership, but Rotary especially, is doing special outreach activities to traditional and religious leaders in order to engage them to help spread the word in their communities, the benefits of polio immunization for children. There's also involving security such that polio vaccinators can feel safe when they go out into some of these communities that have had some difficulties in accessing children. In Pakistan in particular, Rotary is doing a wide variety of activities on top of polio immunization to build confidence in communities. So for example, we hold health camps that provide polio immunization for children, but also provide a wider range of health care such that the community's full needs are met in addition to polio. We're also partnering with local non-governmental organizations in some of the very high-risk areas called polio resource centers, whereby it's not only polio, again, it's a broader set of health initiatives that are being provided, or health interventions that are being provided, along with education about health and well-being.
Thanks, Carol. We had a question come in that asks, what is Rotary doing during NIDs in Nigeria?
During the NIDs in Nigeria, we have Rotarians that are, most Rotarians in Nigeria are in the south. There are fewer Rotarians in the north. Rotarians in the south and in the north are monitoring the polio immunization campaigns that are taking place, because polio is concentrated in northern Nigeria. Rotary has also engaged several celebrity ambassadors in Nigeria that are very popular with the public to help spread the word about the benefits of polio immunization. Rotary is engaging, again, with the traditional and religious leaders, encouraging them to go out in the communities to work alongside vaccinators to encourage parents to have their children vaccinated.
Thank you, Carol. And everybody, we had another question come in. We're going to be wrapping up the questions shortly. We had another question that asks, what's the estimated year of the end of the campaign?
The new polio eradication and endgame strategic plan 2013 to 2018 really helps define what we're looking at. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative in that plan has 2018 as the year by which we certify the eradication of polio. And that is that there have been no cases of polio for at least 3 years anywhere in the world, and that the surveillance for the disease is at a high quality such that we are confident that all of the cases of polio that could be out there are being detected. But the 2013-2018 plan calls for the certification in 2018.
And as a follow-up to that, the plan has several phases in it. Someone has asked about the shift from the massive vaccination drives, and all of that is part of this new strategic plan. Do you want to give just a high-level bird's-eye view of the stages of that plan?
There are several steps in the plan that are happening simultaneously. The first, of course, is the interruption of the transmission of the wild polio virus. There is also another objective is the switch from trivalent polio vaccine to a bivalent polio vaccine, and also the introduction of a dose of the inactivated polio vaccine into routine immunization systems to boost children's immunity. The third objective is to certify and contain, certify the world polio-free and contain any wild polio viruses that may be out there in laboratories. So that has to be accomplished as well. And the fourth objective is to develop the legacy, or what are the broader benefits of polio eradication that can be applied to other health initiatives in the future. So there are four major objectives of the new strategic plan, but I'd say polio eradication is a two-step process. One is that you have to interrupt the transmission of the virus by doing mass campaigns, as we've been doing, and then to certify the world polio-free, you have to have no cases for 3 years, high-level certification or surveillance, and you have to know that you've contained all the virus in the world.
Thanks, Carol. We will close our questions at this time. As a reminder, you will receive an email with a link to this archived webinar within a day, and any questions not answered today will be responded to via email. Thank you again for your participation.
So together, we can reach the last 1% and end polio now. This is who we are, an organization working in concert with our partners to keep a promise we made to children everywhere, the promise of a polio-free world. We have the plan, we have the people, and we have the vision. So let's get to work and wipe out polio once and for all. Thank you very much for your attention and participation today.